GPT, Claude, and other tools, do you also see an uptick of AI related features?
We can also use AI for the purpose of filling our disclosure checklist. I think automation is required because team needs to put more efforts on the validation part rather than the manual tagging.
What should they be actually building as a side project using a lot of these vibe coding platforms?
It's not just about the numbers, it's about the entire story. We are using the same document for the 10K and 10Q just to save on some time.
Should 10Qs exist or they should be replaced by 10S now? Welcome everyone to the second season of SEC Reporting Journal, brought to you by Finrep AI, purpose-built AI for financial research and reporting, backed by Axel. I'm your host Gana, dialing in from San Francisco. Today I have with me Jitender Singal, Senior Manager External Reporting at Clarivate. Jitender is an experienced professional with over 14 years of post qualification work experience. He is heavily involved in SEC financial reporting requirements, including 10Ks, Qs, 8Ks, which also includes the review of US GAAP disclosure checklist prepared quarterly and annual basis provided by statutory auditors. Jitender has a rich experience of working across multiple geographies. He has worked across on multiple audits, different companies of multiple sizes, and his key expertise is actually in SEC reporting. And we have Jitender with us today to go across and inform everybody about what's happening in the SEC reporting, how did he make through it, what are the changes that he's seeing as a senior leader. Welcome, Jitender. Thanks for joining me in this podcast. Uh, to start off, it would be great if you could walk through your career path, how you started with CA and the audit journey, and what eventually got you to reporting structure. Uh, we would love to understand that from you.
Yep, sure. Thank you, Gana, first of all, for having me here. I am really excited to be a part of this. So yeah, I am a chartered accountant by profession, and early in my career, I have joined firms like KPMG and EY. During my time at KPMG, I was involved in statutory audits, handling based on IFRS and IGAP engagement. So I also got this opportunity to work for KPMG Dubai as a part of international secondment. And then during my time at EY, I was involved in US SEC engagements. And honestly, that was my first time real time exposure to work on SEC reporting. So therein, I got a strong interest and in the rigor and complexity of the SEC reporting. So I think my journey started from there, and gradually then got this opportunity to work for Clarivate, wherein I was offered this role to work as external reporting manager. So yeah, so I would say my journey to SEC reporting, it's a natural progression wherein I'm just now not auditing the numbers, but I'm writing the story behind the the financials and making it public for Clarivate.
Is life as an SEC reporting professional easier than what you had in the audit world?
So I won't say that is easier because as a SEC reporting person, you stands in the middle of the company. You need to be aware of everything which is happening around the company, and because at the end of the day, you need to report everything which is happening as a part of 8K. Any important event happening in the company that need to be reported to SEC. That's need to be made public because since we are listed, so you need to be aware, and so you need to be on the top of it. So yeah.
Awesome. So, with more responsibilities, I was checking that you were recently promoted to the senior manager external reporting. What exactly changed in the kind of scope? And for our broader audience, does external reporting also cover beyond 10Ks and 10Qs?
Yep. So I recently got promoted as senior manager. So there's a big shift from execution to ownership of the areas which I'm handling, and it's not just about the areas now. It's also about managing the stakeholders, driving the process improvements in Clarivate. So so yeah, this my scope has drastically increased, And also, SEC reporting is not just about 10Ks and 10Qs. It also includes, the 8K earning releases, press release, and then, there are a lot of controls to be taken care of. So basically, I would say, on, overall reporting governance needs to be taken care of.
Got it. You typically run a reporting function for a US listed company in a sitting in a different geographies, right? Uh,
Yeah.
can you help everybody understand in a setup like this, how does a function typically split off? Are there learnings that you would want to share with everyone which has made you better at what you do? Given there are time differences, even on this podcast right now, we did a lot of back and forth coordination across on timings. It's close to midnight here, it's morning back in India. How do you sort of manage it, and what could people who are possibly in a similar setup learn from your experience?
Sure. If I would say like team wise, so the work is equally divided between the team, the Indian team and the US team. So, both of us are responsible for financial statement preparation, financial, tie-outs, that footnotes and disclosures. However, US team is more also involved in the review part, and also, they are leading the communication with the leadership. So that is where, it's looks like the overall structure. And so other than that, from the timing perspective, I would say, it all begins with the planning. Like at the very early stage, we know, what to do. And as an Indian team, we do the staggered handoffs. So as we go near to filing, we, just make the things closer to the work, to the, the final deliverables. And we work in the close collaboration with US team, so that, will be reaching to the final deliverables which needs to be filed. So
Has advent of lot of these AI tools helped in the planning structure for you, Jitender, or how does the planning today happen?
So yeah, so like from planning, I would say, it begins very well before, the financial close. So it starts with, the shell roll forward, the 10K or the 10Q as the case may be, and then, we forward the request list to various stakeholders, which include various team controllership, treasury, legal, FP&A. So, and, once the financial period close, we, kind of get the data from the requestees, and we start preparing the 10Ks, the, the financial statement disclosures and everything, based on the, the inputs which we receive. So yeah, and it's all, start from there, and then, we gradually progresses to drafts. Typically there are two drafts, and then there is this final deliverable which went through multiple internal reviews, and then, there are review of disclosure committee, audit committee, and, the auditors, to make it ready for the filing.
Got it. So someone who is sitting outside in an accounting world and not
Hmm.
involved in SEC reporting today, but finds all of this very fascinating. Like, I'm literally building a company for this function. For
Yeah.
someone today, if they want to break into SEC reporting, what can actually open up a door? What should they be actually building as a side project using a lot of these vibe coding platforms?
Yeah.
Also, in terms of accounting standards translation, what does somebody have to learn and unlearn at the same time if they want to work in US SEC reporting?
They should understand the disclosures, and, a basic knowledge of US GAAP is definitely required. And if, a person has a working knowledge of Workiva, that would definitely add. And a person, who is looking to work on the SEC reporting profile should have, keen, I would say, eye to details, because attention matters here. Every detail is important for us. We cannot skip that, this can't be important, because we need to, see it from, the company perspective. It's not just about, the numbers, it's about the entire story. Because, when we say SEC reporting, the 10K includes everything, the business, MD&A. So it includes everything and every story of the company. So every attention to details is very important here.
Got it. And you spoke about shells and multiple drafts of these statements being prepared. Can you walk us through a full end to end quarterly filing, multiple steps that are being involved, and who are the responsible folks for actually handling that?
before the financial period close, we start with the roll forwarding the shell. So and once the shell is roll forwarded and once we are near to the financial period close, we float the request list to different stakeholders, which includes controllership, technical accounting team, legal team, HR, FP&A. So we kind of float the request list, and once the financial period close, we start receiving the data inputs from these people, and we start preparing the documents, and the drafts has been prepared. So normally there are two drafts which we share to our auditors through the Workiva platform itself, and we start receiving comments from them. And as we progresses, we kind of shares this final draft to our audit committee, our disclosure committee, and they kind of review those, and in line with the auditor's discussion, we progresses toward the final stages and making the document ready for filing. So when I say internal, all internal reviews, it also include the checking the internal consistency, having those XBRL validations done. So all of that things go hand in hand to making the document filing ready.
Awesome. Can you explain us what do you mean when you call out shell? Is it like an empty roll forward that happens from the last quarter or annual report?
Yeah. So yeah, so shell is basically the same, like in Clarivate we are using the same document for the 10K and 10Q just to save on some time. And so basically shell means if I'm talking supposed to begin Q2 in a few coming days, so it's roll forwarding the Q1 to Q2. So the changing the date from 3 months, it will become 6 months. So as to say simply. And so, and to preparing the structure or the preparing the shell, or the it's an empty document to save on some time when we actually work on the June reporting.
Got it. And within these 10Ks and 10Qs, Jitender, what is the most time consuming? Are these new disclosures? I mean, there has been barrage of disclosures
Yeah.
across on tariffs and other things that people have to accommodate recently. MDNA, footnotes, or is consolidation the most time consuming part?
So I would say, the disclosures take most of our time, and obviously, the disclosures, and especially the new disclosures which are coming up. So that typically takes a lot of time because we have to go through a lot of guidance, which includes there is a lot of data available on the SEC website, FASB guidance, and then we have to do the peer analysis as well. So the new disclosures definitely take time because numbers just flow through. We work on that, but then yes, narratives takes a lot of time.
Got it. You did mention XBRL. So, diving a little bit deeper into it, can you help us understand what exactly is XBRL? You also mention it as one of your core skills, something that we see in most of these reporting teams that they would actually outsource it or would have a horror story. Um,
Yeah.
in your case, do you tag it in house? Where does XBRL still break down? Would love for you to educate the audience about XBRL.
In Clarivate, we manage the XBRL, tagging and validation, all of those in house. So, so that is being taken care internally. And here in Clarivate, also for XBRL, I would say a lot of automation is still required because teams depends. We do a lot of tagging internally, but then I think automation is required because team needs to put more efforts on the validation part rather than doing the manual tagging. They should be more focusing on the validation part. So
Got it. And what does the current reporting stack look like for uh, you, Jitender? If somebody has to start thinking about a new stack today, uh, what should they possibly be going towards with? Uh, in the existing set of tools, where do you see the biggest gaps?
So Gana, like for us, we are using Workiva for our reporting, and like from the ERP perspective, we are using OneStream and NetSuite. And I won't say it has a gap, but then now currently in Clarivate we have successfully done the OneStream to Workiva integration. So now we need not to fetch in trial balance from OneStream and inputting into Workiva. It's all integration is done with the click of button. The trial balance get updated. So we actually have bridged that gap, and now it's just click of buttons, and there is no manual interventions as such in there.
Are there, with the advent of GPT, Claude, and other tools, do you also see an uptick of AI related features or pure AI tooling in the reporting function? Have you experimented with a few tools before? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So I would say, AI is definitely coming in. There is a lot of improvements is still required. And here in Clarivate, what we have done so far in, like we very to simply put it very simply, we have used Copilot, and we have put in the document and to just to see the internal consistency among document. Like supposedly, for example, a debt footnote is there. It's in the it's one of the footnote, and it's there in the MD&A section as well. So just to see if there is internal consistency across document, it scans the entire document. So this is the one of the simple functionality for just to check overall sanity check of the document. We can also use AI for the purpose of filling our disclosure checklist. So that is where AI is again helpful. And but I'm sure that there is lot of uses to AI which can be bring into reporting as the time goes. So yeah, we are yet to see a lot of changes coming in.
Talking about newer tools, how do you handle new disclosures today? If you have been approached with a brand new disclosure, such as new segment reporting requirements or cybersecurity, especially where guidances are quite thin because they have been recently being pushed out, what is a typical sequence in which you process that? Do you go across, look at your peers? Do you navigate through checklist? Is there an engagement with an auditor? We would love to understand how do you today write a new brand, new disclosure.
Yeah. Gana, as I said, like disclosure definitely takes a lot of time. So we do, a lot of research because there is a lot of guidance available. So we, do the research on the SEC website. What is the guidance there, and what is, there's this FASBI guidance. So we look into that as well, and then we do the peer analysis, how peers are presenting it, and the disclosure checklist is there. And I think the main idea is to be in line with auditors. So if you are in line with auditors early, so that will help you towards the later part when the closing is there, so it will definitely help you out.
Coming to a more critical function post filing where you encounter SEC comment letters and it's pretty time consuming and shifts the focus of the teams looking through it. Um, what do you do proactively to avoid getting comment letters? And today, when you are seeing these comment letters in isolation, how do you sort of actually rate them out? Do you mark it against your own set of financial statements? You find out high risk areas. Can you walk us through your treatment of SEC comment letters that our listeners can also adopt to? Are there good practices that they should?
I think as far as SEC comment letters is concerned, so I think consistency is the key. Your document needs to be consistent across the period. So that is the key. And I would say non-GAAP disclosures, this segment reporting, goodwill impairment, all of these areas are gray areas. And definitely, whenever there is this subjective areas, they tend to be in picture, and you can see SEC comment letter coming in. But just to avoid that, you need to be well versed with the financials, that they are consistent across, to to have to avoid these kind of SEC comment letters.
Got it. You spoke about auditor checklist, which has been a painful experience for most of the reporting teams, right? Uh, what has been your experience with these auditor checklists, given that they run through hundreds of questions across segments, right? How do you today handle that on a quarterly or annual basis? Can you walk us through that process?
You have just repaid it, so the it cannot be just simply copy and paste from the last quarter. You need to run through the questions. Wherever there is change, definitely you should look into each and every question, to so as to answer basis are your whatever the new understanding of the company is. And I think that is a main function, that is a main aspect of it. uh, obviously, yeah, it's a lengthy process, as you said. There are 100 or 200 of questions, but then yes, as a part of our closer, our audit closer, that has to be filled in. So we try to work on the disclosure checklist before the quarter starts, and as we progresses, if there is any change we see later in the stage, so we kind of improvise our disclosure checklist.
Got it. What's one thing that you wish other sub-functions of CFO office would understand better about reporting teams, about their own challenges?
Yeah, so I think that they think that the SEC reporting is more of to work in isolation or just putting in the numbers, so into a into a structure. So I think SEC reporting is more into it. We are dependent on the input from the various teams. So if we receive inputs on time, definitely we'll get more time to get the analysis done, and output will be better that way. So it's like that. And also it's SEC is not just about putting in the numbers into a structure format. It's also about understanding and analyzing it, and to writing a financial story for the company as a whole. So yeah, so this is important from a SEC reporting perspective.
And how does a senior professional like you, who is buried with so much of tasks throughout quarters and annual reporting structures being involved through, how do you stay on top of what's happening in the market, right? uh, how do you see across the other companies, their reports? What has been your mechanism to actually satisfy the curiosity of learning that you would have developed over a period of time? Can you walk us through your own learning process, Jitender?
As a part of SEC reporting guy, so you need to be upskill yourself continuously, see what is happening around the market. So you can subscribe to various LinkedIn channels or various learning platforms. So personally in Clarivate we use IntelliGize software, wherein if there is any new guidance, there is a lot of interpretations available there. Peer filings is there. So as and when we get some time, we kind of see what are our peers doing, if there are any changes in disclosures as such. So these kind of tools definitely help us, because definitely you won't get that much of time to to look into the every aspect of document. But then yes, there is a comparative feature what we can run, and to understand if there is any changes in disclosures, what we can also bring in. And also it's very important to keep yourself updated throughout the this new disclosures which are coming up. So yeah, that is definitely important.
Say someone very early in their career who want to be in your seat one day, what should they be focusing on right now?
So I think somebody who is looking to get into the SEC reporting, they should be well versed with the financial statement. They should understand them thoroughly, how the the financial statements are prepared, how the footnotes are prepared, and a basic knowledge of US GAAP, what is happening in the US geography. They should be familiar with that. And in case if they can see or know how the Workiva tools work, because I think Workiva is a platform which is being used in most of the organizations, which is US listed ones. So that is definitely helpful. And the attention to detail is another important aspect that is also really important to be taken care of.
Any parting words for our audience today, Jitender, that you would want to share?
I think yes. So SEC reporting is definitely a fantastic career, a fantastic career. And since you are a center of the company, uh, you need to be well versed with everything which is happening around.
I want to wrap this up with a controversial question. Given the current regulations around reducing the reporting requirements from quarterly to semi annual,
Yeah.
it sort of helps the teams which are actually preparing that. But at the same time, there is a feeling that it would reduce a lot of transparency in terms of investor communications, right? What's your take on it? Should 10Qs exist, or they should be replaced by the 10S now?
So I think, yeah, there's this new thing which has come up. The quarterly filing should be reduced to a semi-annual filing. So definitely it will reduce a lot of cost from the company perspective. But then yes, there is a lot of transparency which will go away, because obviously, the investors will get information on a half yearly basis. But then, having said that, I think earning release is what will be there, so that will cover the most important aspect of it. And from an investor perspective, they they tend to go into earning release, because 10K 10Q are a lengthy document, so they kind of get information what they're looking at from earning release. So earning release then will play a crucial role, because that will be the only interface between the company and the investors on a quarterly basis. So earning release and press release will definitely play a big role therein. So I would say, disclosures will reduce, because you don't have to work on disclosures. But then yes, you had the numbers and everything has to be still presented to the people. So
Awesome. So, do you want this to be removed or not?
so I would say, it's a matter of a call. So I think yes, in order to reduce the burden of the company or the team, so we can definitely look for it to have half yearly filings instead of a quarterly ones.
Awesome. Thanks, Jitender, for taking out time and sharing your wisdom with our broader audience. It was great having you with Finrep on the SEC Reporting Journal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gana. Thanks.